Welcome again, everybody. This is Ham Radio Perspectives. I'm Quinn, K8QS.
And I'm Tom, WA9TDD.
And Tom, it's something interesting about ham radio is antennas. We have our favorite antennas over time. You and I have been in the hobby 60 years. We've had a lot of antennas, but we always had our favorites. It's kind of like cars. If you ask people, especially guys, which were their favorite cars that they used over the years, they will usually say it's their current car, but sometimes they will look back fondly on other cars that they had. And you know what? We have our favorite antennas to talk about real briefly. We're not necessarily recommending these. We're not pushing them, but they are favorites that we have a lot of fun with. So, Tom, what is currently your favorite HF antenna? Describe it for us.
My current favorite HF antenna is a quarter wave vertical for 40 meters through pretty much 6 meters. It works well through a tuner. And it's one I built. I've probably got a total of maybe $30 into it. And I've literally worked the world with it. The greatest expense came from all the radials that I put down and maybe the coax, but it works fantastically.
Okay, how many radials, Tom?
I've got 36 radials.
Ooh, that's good. And it's copper wire?
It's all copper wire. It's all insulated copper wire, by the way, which happens actually works out pretty well. I don't have any degradation of it being buried in the soil. It's about an inch down under the soil level, so it works out great. My second favorite antenna is an end fed. I've got probably $25 invested in that, and most of that is the cost of the balun. What about you, Quinn?
So you bought a commercial balun for it?
I wound the balun.
Oh, you did?
I bought the wire. I bought the core.
Okay.
I bought the case it goes in, and I spent countless hours trying to get the proper amount of fillers wound on there and soldered together. But it works well.
Yeah. That's why I asked you about that. Let me go back to your vertical for one more thing. What kind of tuner are you using at the base of that vertical?
I don't have a tuner at the base of the vertical. I've got a tuner at the end of the transmitter, and I'm using a Kenwood manual tuner, and that thing will tune just about anything.
Okay, and is it coax then directly from the quarter wave to the rig? Or to the tuner?
Yes, it goes directly to the tuner, right.
Oh, so simple, so simple. That's great. Okay, you gave two, I'll give two too. Let me start with the one that I have up right now, which is an off-center fed dipole. All right, so it's 2/3 on one side. It's about 130 feet long, 2/3 length on one side, 1/3 on the other, fed at that 1/3 point. Coming directly with RG8 into the shack. I do have a 4x1 balun at the feed point, and then it just comes right into the shack. And on some of the bands, I don't have to do any tuning at all. And then on some of the bands, I have to use the built-in tuner on my IC7300. I love the antenna. Now, here's a crazy reason why I love it. It performs well. That's one reason to like it. But the other thing I like about it is that I find there is never a good tree post or something in the middle of an antenna that I'm putting up. In other words, if you put a regular dipole up, fed in the middle, you say, where's a good spot to pull that up? I never find that. So what I've got is right outside my window. It goes almost straight up to a spot with 1/3 to one tree, 2/3 to the other tree. The sizing works perfect. It did it my last QTH2. The antenna works well. That one's up at the center about 60 feet, and then it comes down to about 35 on the two sides. Very inexpensive. I'm using cheap wire, and as I mentioned, just a 4-to-1 balun. But the other antenna I was going to mention, which is actually my favorite HF antenna of all time, but it has some seasonality issues I'll talk about. And that is an antenna built with ladder line. Ladder line, gang, if you don't know, is where you have two wires, okay, like this, and they have some kind of insulation between them. It looks like a ladder. All right. And so I use 300 ohm ladder line for the antenna itself. And that's about 108 feet long. And then I use more 300 ohm ladder line from the antenna feed point in the middle of that 108 feet, 88 feet right down to the shack, and where I have a 1-to-1 balun, which I use simply to take care of the common mode current. Now, and then I have a tuner, a manual tuner that I use with that. I find I can just about use that on every band, and it works spectacularly. That's my favorite all-time antenna to use. The problem with that antenna, Tom, is that up here in Michigan, where we get a lot of snow and ice, and it builds up on that ladder line, it ends up changing the SWR. And it can even change the SWR while the wind is blowing. you can see the effect of this on your SWR bridge. So I have found that there are even times when there's so much ice on either the feed line going up or the antenna itself that I can't use that antenna. Otherwise, if I were living in southern climates like you are in Florida right now, that would be my antenna. So there you have it, gang. For both of us, our two favorite HF antennas. We don't spend a lot of money on antennas. We don't have big towers and big beams, Yagis and all that stuff. I suppose if we were loaded with dough, we might try to do that a little bit. But we have a blast with our antennas, inexpensive in the hobby. So if you're thinking about ham radio as a hobby, think about the fact that it's not all that expensive to build and put up an antenna. The biggest problem may be what your neighbors think about what you're doing than about the antenna or the cost itself. You got to have good neighborly relationships. So welcome again, everybody, to Ham Radio Perspectives. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe down below. I'm Quinn, K8QS.
And I'm Tom, WA9TDD.